Plum.
And I'm Sean of Renstead Interiors. We're interior designers
turned internet friends
turned real life friends.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
We're not that hot
or that young.
Every week, we'll be spilling the tea on how a new generation of interior designers can run their businesses. Welcome to the club.
Hi, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
Oh, we have a special guest here today. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we haven't had a guest on in a while.
Let's welcome Kelli Lamb of Rue Magazine.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm crashing like this fun party, this fun coffee date.
Thanks. I mean, thank you for agreeing to our wild pitch in High Point.
I really, let's be honest, was like, you have a podcast? Can I come talk your ear off?
And we're like, this is our show. We make whatever we want. And sometimes the episodes get a little off the rails. I don't think this will be one of them, but...
Oh, I've been having margaritas since 7, so...
Oh my God. I have had 2 cups of coffee. Yeah, we've been like, you've been on our list for a long time. And then when we saw you at High Point again, we're like, okay, let's make this happen. And she's got exciting things to talk about. So let's start with a little about Kelli. Like, tell us your whole life story.
Okay, sure. So I was born at... Well, I'm assuming professionally would be more of interest. It would be a different podcast if you wanted to know my personal life story, though there's some highs and lows in that too.
Like highlights.
Yeah, I've been with Rue for about 10 years. And
wow.
When I was living in San Francisco, I mean, it's like, I used to be like, I moved because I'm an independent woman, but I did move for my husband. We met, he was living in San Francisco. So I quit my job, quit everything, and moved there. And then thought, like, I mean, maybe just because I watched a million rom-coms, I was like, and I'm going to get a job like that, which I didn't.
Like, live your Kate Hudson fantasy. Like,
yeah.
That's
what I really thought. But then I couldn't get a job in like I had worked in e-commerce and no one would hire me or even give me an interview. And so then Rue was hiring, and I had been a blogger and had mutual friends and just was going to events in the city. So I wrote the founder, Crystal Palachuk, like the most passionate email I've ever written in my life, like begging, I know that I'm older than, it was for an internship. And I was like, I'm sure you thought a college student would be applying, like, but can I just do it? And mostly it was like, at the very least, I'll meet people who can help me find a job down the road. But then I just fell in love with, I was able to write, for work, which is what I always dreamt of doing. So then it was just 10 years of like incredibly hard work, no sleep, like doing more than I was asked for. And when Crystal was ready to pursue her design business full time, it was sort of just a natural transition that I would take over more formally. And then a lot of little tiny things happened in between. And Danny CO, my business partner, acquired the magazine officially at the end of 2020. And then I invested some of my own money so that I could be a part owner with him. And then we launched a print magazine. And that is a very quick, you said 2 minutes. Maybe I went over, but I got it out as quick as I could.
No, I feel like I want to know more about some of that. I'm just curious, what was your blog focused on when you were doing that?
Pass. No kidding. It was, it was humiliatingly a fashion blog, which I think was like, I wanted a blog. Yeah. And that was kind of like the genre of what I knew. And I love design and lifestyle, but that wasn't really my world. And so I actually, like, my first blog was, I went a year without shopping, like without buying any clothes for a year.
Oh,
and that was how, because I started a blog and it was just like a weird, sad online diary. And I was like, okay, I need a topic to like
right.
Give me a lens to go through.
Yeah. So I set a goal to not shop for an entire year. And then after that, I had a pretty good following from that journey. And so it was just a fashion blog because that was what everyone was doing. But I don't really care about fashion now. So it's kind of silly that I would like devote all this time.
I know a lot of people that are ex-fashion bloggers, and I am thinking, like, when you're in your 20s and before you have a home, like you can't like just redecorate a room per se.
Right.
So like fashion is an accessible style that you
100%.
can do like in a high-low kind of way or low-low. There's
Yeah.
a lot of
A lot.
ways of
IKEA hack.
expressing just you. And do you think that at the time, I mean, I'm a long time blog follower, not writer per se. I mean, I started following my first blogs when in like 2000, and no one knew what they even were. But I wish I'd written one. Now I'd have 1 million followers. But don't you feel like there weren't a lot of home bloggers like there are now?
Well, I mean, if for like OG Rue fans, it was founded by design bloggers. The founders were Crystal. I think I'm not going to say it because I don't want to mess up what her blog name was. And then Anne Sage, who was City
I didn't
Sage.
realize.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was a co-founder. And then on the first like team was Brie Emery of Design Love Fest and Cass Laval of Coco Kelly. So that was like the original four for the first 2 years. And so it kind of was
And Maya was one of the first designers, right?
Yeah, Maya started just right before I did, and she did all the graphic design. So
yeah, I know
like
her. She lives locally to me.
Yeah. And so I have like my fond memories of being in her apartment in Oakland until like midnight getting the digital, because it was all digital, and getting the issues done and feeling like my Kate Hudson dreams are coming true.
Yeah.
So glamorous.
Like your babies are like all of that hard work comes out and you get to see it all come to fruition and watch the traffic build. And
and it was, I mean, I think one of my first tasks was like manage the Instagram account, which was so different than what Instagram is today. And like some of the stuff like all of it was like very fit into like it was relevant for the time. And so it's interesting to see how far we've come and what it is now.
I mean, all those people you mentioned, including yourself, like literally created what Instagram is now in a way. Like you were the pioneers.
I don't think I did.
Well, you're part of it.
Yeah, I think it definitely, seeing, especially now, it's interesting how much has come full circle. And I mean, I remember having my blog and then going to my corporate office and being like humiliated. Like people, like you just take pictures of yourself and like share. And then when
what a bunch of haters.
Oh my God. I hope they listen. No, some people have been supportive, but it was like a weird thing that I would use the internet to like show my life like that. And I remember
taking pictures of your lunch every day. That was
people being like finding it really off-putting. And then now, I mean, who doesn't share their lives on Instagram and like create these online personas? So I'm glad that I did it. And I'm glad that I had that creative drive, because it really was what opened the door. And then as Rue like did grow, I remember having some like other embarrassment of like, I felt embarrassed that I was like putting myself out there a little bit. And then when we started to have success, I felt like a little bit of an imposter, like, you know, as our audience grew and we're competing with these like really big, really traditional publications. And I'm like, just clacketing away at my computer or at my dining table, really most of the time, like creating this platform.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool that it's become what it has become, given where we came from.
And that some of those big publications are no longer as well. Like, I mean, you have to be scrappy now.
I think that's our benefit. If anyone, Danny and I are scrappy and we're a lean team and we just like make it happen, which I think is the benefit. But I do always laugh. Like my joke is people will say, I'd love to come visit the Rue headquarters. And it's just like me and my cat, Roxanne. I mean, it's not, there's a lot of really amazing people, but we don't have like the overhead of like some big fancy office. Like we really do things as efficiently as we can. I think that's why we're able to continue printing a magazine, especially with everything going on today.
Do you think you ever will
can
have
adapt
an office?
quickly too?
Sorry.
Do you think you ever will have an office? Is that something that you guys? dream
I
of?
think
Or?
probably as growth is inevitable, but like right now I'm in this room that I'm in now is the first office I've ever had that's my own. And so much of it has been like done at my dining table or on the sofa. And so like when we moved into this house, there was a room that I could make into like an actual official office. And that is like so surreal. And I've been a lot more productive, I have to say.
Yeah, it does help.
For like the number of articles I've written about like having a dedicated home office is essential. And then it took me this long to get one. But I think as things grow, it will make sense. But for now, we found a system and a way to operate that really works for us. Plus, we're traveling all the time. Like there's a trade show every month.
And why? There's so many. It's so much travel for you guys. That's a ton of like hitting the road, packing your bags for this.
And I have a travel curse, as Instagram followers know. So it's not great for me to be in airports that often.
Yeah, because there's usually a delay or a layover, or your flight gets canceled, or you sit on the runway for a couple hours and then it doesn't take off.
Every time, yeah. The Kelli Lamb travel curse is, I don't know what flight attendant I pissed off. I'm so
who like cursed you at some point? Like
I know. But I'm like really I think I'm a very kind traveler. So I think the curse actually comes from like maybe someone just was bored on a plane and was like, we're gonna ruin that girl's life. So I never go to or from a trade show without sitting on the runway for 3 hours. Don't ever fly with me. That's the podcast has gone off the rails.
We'll just meet you at Vegas Market. Don't fly from LA together. Like
no, because once I got stuck in Vegas due to a snowstorm.
I did too. I was
that
there.
one.
Yes.
And of all places, Vegas for a snowstorm. Like no one's thinking about that.
I was like tweeting. I remember I tweeted Lady Gaga and I was like, "Is your private plane here? I gotta get home."
I gotta get home.
You there?
Yeah.
So much of what you just described about like the journey of Rue, I feel like resonates with so many designers of like being scrappy, staying small, like watching your overhead, like having to get help from a smaller team or like all of that. And so I think that's interesting because we do think of like the big media publications where everyone has an expense account and you can send interns to go do stuff and you can have fact checkers that go back or people who are collecting.
Priestley life.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much more that like I identify with the fact that Rue works that way is it's like, oh wait, like you really do get so many of these designers are really like trying to pull together these projects and get them ready and like create something that they can be really proud of and that their clients are happy with too. Like you're creating the same environment there.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something to be said too about like I sometimes like know of people who have these huge teams and I'm like, what are they doing all day? But like also at the same time I have zero work-life balance, so maybe there's something I could learn from that. But we were laughing last week because we had this like big fancy dinner celebrating my new book one night, and then the next day at like 9 a.m. we were making hundreds of gift bags in like the burning sun somewhere like. And so we were like, one day, like you're sipping cocktails on the rooftop, and the next day you're doing manual labor in a parking lot. But at the same time,
unpaid intern again.
Yeah. But I think it keeps us. And I mean, even in those moments, we like had a million ideas as we're like putting product after product into these bags of like future editorial and different campaign ideas. And so in a way, it's like by doing so much of it, you're, I think, able to be more innovative versus, getting used to like, these are my tasks and these are what I delegate. Like it's nice to have, I guess, be flexible and humble with everything.
Yeah. And the ideas bleed between each other.
Mm-hmm. And being close to the actual work, I feel like is important to stay, I don't know, knowledgeable and like emotionally attached. There's a balance.
Yes.
but so another thing I was thinking is how your story relates probably to a lot of us is pushing through the imposter syndrome. It's like I have imposter syndrome and I'm still moving forward and believing in yourself beyond like the embarrassment. Like you said you were embarrassed going into work, like saying what you were doing, but also you knew something they didn't, even though it seemed you didn't really know where it was going at the time. I don't know. I just think like
you're right, Rebecca. I did know something they didn't.
Well,
No,
and it's usually, I would say men, well, not necessarily always, but like, I think like a lot of bloggers are women, and we don't get credit for that kind of work. And women have created this multi-billion-dollar social media industry, mommy bloggers, all that shit that it's helped millions of people, and a lot of men are now making a lot of money off of it. So
I think it's like any creative work, whether it's blogging or design or writing or anything, it's a risk to put yourself out there, but it is like kind of tapping into what you're good at or what you want to do or what the future you see for yourself is, and just being okay with being uncomfortable. I've been uncomfortable for 10 years.
And I'm still here.
Nervous. No, it is definitely that feeling though of like that risk. Like just put yourself out there and go for it.
Do you think you're actually like attracted to the discomfort?
I hope not. Probably though.
I think I am. Well, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think putting myself in challenging situations that take me out of my comfort zone, like whether it's this podcast or I hosted Creative Mornings for a while, I was terrified of public speaking, but doing that, like now I'm not. So I don't know. Now I know, like the more I put myself in these situations, growth will happen, and only you can do it.
Yeah, growth. I mean, I hate to say that I'm a member of like the Peloton cult, but I am, unfortunately. And like the instructors will say stuff about like discomfort as you're like just doing an awful workout, like pedaling to nowhere. But they'll say, someone said something that was like, you can't grow, like you don't grow unless you're uncomfortable for a little while. And I think you're right in that. I really enjoy, I'm always putting my head down and working. Like, so I have a hard time celebrating when something happens, but I'll occasionally have these like step away and look at how far Rue has come and how far I have come personally and be like, oh, that I'm really proud of that. And I think I enjoy looking at the progress. I don't think I enjoy feeling uncomfortable.
No, it doesn't feel good in the moment, but I guess it's like, okay, I'm never gonna get to the next thing unless I do something uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah.
And now you probably know that.
Last week we did a segment on California Live, and as I was leaving the house, like a TV segment with decorating ideas, and as I was leaving the house, I told my husband, like, I am so stupid. Why do I do these things? Like, this is, I don't know why.
Why did I agree to this?
Just say no. And I mean, it wasn't that, no, I probably was more dramatic, but then I got there and I was like, this is so cool. And then it just came out yesterday and I think I did pretty well. And so then it was this feeling of like, okay, it was uncomfortable in the moment, but I'm capable. I can actually accomplish it.
And now you're Kelli Lamb TV guest.
Let's not go.
We should make you an IMDb profile. Like we have to put your credits out there now. Like
I read somewhere, and I always tell my 7-year-old this, so now I tell myself this, that fear and excitement are very closely related, and sometimes we mistake what they are, which I think is really interesting.
I like, hold on.
And like, am I scared or am I excited? Or am I a little bit both? Because I'm on the line. I think, I don't know. I've found that now that I've experienced some of it.
That is
And
such a good, maybe I was just really excited to go to NBC.
I mean, you're probably right on the line. Like, I'm excited and scared, and they both feel really heightened. And
Yeah.
but you could
You'd
tell yourself you're excited and try to trick yourself.
And you'd still pick staying at home and having a margarita
Oh,
over
for
public speaking. Like
sure.
that's so many people. I don't know anyone
I
who's like,
know.
We
first thing
can't
I
put
want to
that on
do.
your resume.
I know.
Yeah, that can't go on the IMDb profile, like prolific margarita consumer. Or like,
That is that's so true. I think fear in it, especially I'm sure as designers, like, seeking their first press coverage, I definitely, in like working with designers who are pitching, there is a sense of fear, or like people will follow up and say, I wanted to make sure, I answered a question and I want to adjust it. Can you change my phrasing? And
yeah.
I sense it's definitely a combination of like fear, but like excitement that their work will finally be seen. I think it applies to everything. Like roller coasters. Are you afraid? Or are you just?
I hate roller
Or
coasters.
are you just excited?
But roller coasters
Okay.
will not get me anywhere, and I still can't put that on my resume. So I feel okay not going on them.
Okay. But wait, something that's going on Kelli's resume now is being a published author of a book, like a full real out there in the world on, like, that's big.
Yeah, thank you. That is one that normally I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. And this, I'm like, this is a very big deal. I can't, it's so surreal. I can't believe it.
How long did you work on it? Like, tell us about the process of creating.
Well, we put the book proposal together about right after Danny acquired Rue, and we were set to launch it in print. He said, there's a lot of momentum with this new venture, so there should also be a book. And why isn't there a book? And there's 10 plus years of content and beautiful homes, and everything just lives online in this like constant algorithm of whether people are seeing it. And he really saw it as an opportunity. So I had never had that door open for me. I see not everyone, but a lot of people come out with books and see it happen and go, oh, that's so cool. And it just never occurred to me that it was a possibility for me and for what I do. And so I put my heart and soul into this proposal, and we took a lot of meetings and ended up with like the most wonderful publisher at 10 Speed Press, which is like they're completely surreal. Like, they're owned by Penguin Random House, which is referenced often in my favorite movie, You've Got Mail. So I'm like, Random House? What? Like, it's just, all of it was like really out of body and so exciting. And basically that once it was agreed that we would move forward with them, it was like instant, like, put your head down and get to work. And write a book. And that was like I was like, oh, whoa. What do you mean I have to write it right now? Like, it all happened really quickly. But I think that was beneficial because I wasn't given much time to worry about what it was, and instead just get what had been in my head out onto a manuscript. And then the thing that a lot of people don't know is that we moved into our new house. I had to get the second issue of the magazine to the printer, and the manuscript to the first draft of the manuscript to my publisher, all on the same week. And so I was like finishing it on, like, my desk was like boxes of my clothes. It's just frantically. So that itself was a very fairly quick process. I think maybe 4 months of the first manuscript, and then we pass it back and forth where they make edits. I mean, they know, they're experts. And so they say, this phrasing doesn't make sense, or let's change this, or could you elaborate more here? And so it was a lot of back and forth to kind of refine it and make it beautiful and what people would want, versus just my like dream of what a book should be. So it was very collaborative once I got the first draft done.
Was it hard getting those edits, or did it make sense?
I love it. I love feedback. I'm such a perfectionist that I like crave feedback. Like every issue of the magazine, if I'm with someone, I'm like, tell me what you didn't like so I
Make it
can
better.
improve it. And yeah. So I was really enthusiastic for edits. And there was nothing, I think the one thing that I was like, well, is I referenced Real Housewives of Salt Lake, and they were like, that's too new of a franchise. Like not everyone might. And I was like, but it's the best one.
Not in the canon.
Like, yeah, this might not make it as long as the book lives in the world. Like,
yeah. But otherwise it was like, tell me everything. Like there's a chapter on children's spaces, and so I like really relied on my editor. Like I was like, I'm not a mother, so I say that in the book, like referencing there's a lot of factors that I'm obviously not qualified to discuss, but it was about the design and really making sure that I was communicating clearly my point, but that also it was relevant for parents versus me just being like, as a cat mom, this is what,
this is totally what people would want.
Yeah. Or like beyond the photos, like to live with it.
Yeah. So I love feedback, even if it's hurtful, just send it.
That sounds like art school.
Yeah, right.
I would imagine like the hardest part would have been like getting the full manuscript, like the first draft birthed, and then like, okay, iterations. To me, like iterations are easy because they're like little chunks.
Yeah. Amy Bartlam, the photographer, she is a very good friend, and a lot of her work is in the book. And I had like a weepy FaceTime with her. And I just felt like I was really in over my head. And she was like, well, it just sounds, in her posh British accent, she was like, it sounds like you're at the bottom of a mountain and you're going to get to the top, but like, you're looking up it right now. And that was like this weird, perfect friend advice of like, okay, just start going, just start
climbing.
Yeah. And when you're facing like a huge project and it's like paralyzing, like what do I do first?
Yes.
I think that was the toughest part. And then once it was going, it was going. And you're right, the iterations were really manageable and more fun because it was like FedEx would show up with like this huge stack of paper, and like that really felt like I was like cosplaying again my Kate Hudson rom-com dream.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm editing my book.
I'm editing my book.
That's cool that it's actually like a physical hard copy. I was imagining you'd be like doing word
like red lines on PDFs or something, but yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, my embarrassing thing is I did send, like right when I was starting, I did send an email to my editor and I was like, so do I write this in Microsoft Word or what's the best?
What did they say? That's what I would want to know.
Good things. I felt so silly. She was like, if you want, yeah, that's great. And I was like, okay.
So I'm gonna start a Word document with my book in it.
Like, no, Google Pages, please.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, where should I be saving these documents?
Yeah. Do you have a portal I need to log into for this? Like,
yeah, it was all like that really was the questions. And I think it comes from I've worked for myself for so long that like suddenly working with a team, I was like, where do we put all of this?
Am I doing this right?
They're like, Kelly, yes, we also use staplers and paper clips at our offices. We don't have a magic thing we use.
No, I assume they did. I was like, the world of publishing, like,
well, yeah. Now you're like, oh, I'm doing it like the pros.
Yeah, I want it. Well, and it comes to, I want to do everything right. I didn't want to let anyone down. So if it wasn't Word, it wasn't going to be typed in Word, but it was.
That's a lot of pressure to adopt too, but it's still like the fun of it comes out once you can get past that, hopefully.
Yeah, it was really, choosing the layout was more my wheelhouse too. With the magazine, I often write to the images. So like I'll see the layout first. And then because that's as a reader, like a magazine reader, that's like the experience, right? Is this visual journey. And so I would write the copy. I still do write the copy to fit the page. And they were like, write the book first. And I was like, could I see the layout? Like that was like a swap.
This isn't my process.
It totally wasn't. But then we had this call this like video meeting, and we went through page by page and chose the layout. And that was like the best day of my life. Like seeing it actually go from this Word doc to
Oh, so cool.
what the book would look like was like,
Did they give you like page counts? Like, how do you even know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you, when you were first doing your first draft, were you incorporating photos or?
Yes. Yeah. So I wrote all the chapter introductions and all like the bulk of the copy, and then did image selects and wrote captions to those. And then it adjusted, and some images I went over. I gave them way more than needed. So that was kind of tough of like making the final cut, because
Well, you
I
have
wanted
10 years of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what, I don't think we said, what's the title of the
oh
book? We should say
good
that.
question. It's Home with Rue, Style for Everyone. And that, it's named after our hashtag, like Home with Rue,
Mhm.
encouraging designers and followers to tag their images. And so it was kind of that thought of, it wouldn't be one singular style. It wouldn't be one like location or budget. Like page to page is really a lot of variation. So hopefully everyone who reads it will see something that resonates with them.
Yeah, that's, I guess, what I was trying to think of like a lot of books that are being published by designers of their own work.
Yeah.
Their perspective is very clear through most of their design work. Like they try to make sure there's a heavy through line of why they're putting all these projects.
And that's usually the like intent of the book, right? Like to like get their point of view into a book.
Exactly. And so like with Rue, it's featuring a bunch of designers.
Yep.
And they all have different perspectives on style and finish and sort of that. There's going to be some commonality, but how did that impact putting like the book together to create some cohesiveness?
I think, I've always prioritized that in the website. And then when we launched the magazine, like this cannot be a singular style. This has to be something where no matter who, whether it's a longtime fan or someone who sees it on the newsstands, like they will see something in there that grabs them or that they connect to. And I think it also comes to I really want Rue as a publication to feel inclusive, and like people are welcome to engage with the content. And if we're having events, everyone is invited, versus like a clique, or you have to have a certain income, or you have to have a certain style to be included. That is not. And maybe it's just my own personal issues where I'm like, everyone is allowed to be there, including me.
I love that.
Everyone can benefit from good design.
Like when I was
beautiful home.
When I was hosting creative mornings, I'm like naturally a shy person. And my whole thing was like, I'm going to create a networking event for introverts. I don't know what that means, but that's like my worst. I hate going to networking events, but I did it somehow. Like people like felt that, and they would go, like introverts would say, I came here alone and I had a great time. So I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then in the book, I mean, as people look through it, they'll see like page to page is really, in my opinion, it's really a beautiful experience in that it does flow, but they are all really different spaces. And the other, I think the through line really was, I try to make it clear I'm not the designer. I'm more the person that is sharing the work of the designer. So not taking credit for any of the work, and instead, quoting designers that are featured, and also highlighting decisions that they made versus this is me and my work and my wealth of knowledge. It's more a platform, more community based in general. So it made it, despite everything looking really different and unique page to page, I think made it cohesive somehow. My brain just somehow created.
Do you have like a lens or filter that you choose your rooms, whether it's the magazine or the book?
Yeah, it's weirdly, I always describe it as a puzzle of making sure that it's really just like putting together this huge puzzle and making sure that I, like in the magazine, for example, as I'm selecting projects for there, if I notice that everything is coming from the LA area, I go, whoops, like it's turning into a regional publication. And so I'll like put a pin on any LA submissions that come in, because I know that I need to cast my net further and make sure that there are spaces from the South, from the Northeast, from the Midwest, like Pacific Northwest. How am I making sure that there's something where someone will see and like, oh, that's where I live, or that.
Mhm.
So with the book, it was the same thing of, okay, it's starting to look a little California coastal. I have to find some more eclectic spaces. I have to find some more big city spots on the East Coast, that type of thing.
Mhm.
So it's this puzzle, and that is actually the hardest. That's the only thing that I will sometimes get hung up on, like with everything that we do to manage the website and the magazine. Those final pieces of like making sure that it's really balanced are like always my biggest hurdle, because it has to be but you have to find the right piece to finish the puzzle. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like designers should feel like it. Like designers should feel like they could bring you something, even if
yeah,
they're like, oh, I know they have like a Californian perspective, or they happen to be making it in California. It doesn't mean, don't feel like that's the only thing that's going to show up on the pages.
100%. Yeah. I'm looking for everything all the time, which means I get too many emails, but it's like a complete open, our submissions process is like a complete open door for everyone, even if it's just one room, versus a whole project. Like we can find a
Mhm.
way to share that. I know some publications really, it has to be the full home tour and it has to be completely exclusive. And that makes that's a really wonderful experience with those publications, and I as a magazine fan enjoy that. But for us, it's again like I'm a little more flexible with requirements and spaces and what we're looking for.
Do you have any requirements, like if it's been in another publication?
Yeah, that's case by case, really. If just one photo was in another publication, but the home as a whole, if I can find a way to tell a fresh experience or tell a fresh story, make it a new experience for our reader, then I'm okay with that. But if it's, we just got like the coolest house in Sacramento, actually, and I was like, this is such a home run. It's going to be perfect for the issue. And it had been covered in like 3 magazines. You do. You definitely do. And I was like, this is awesome. And I was like, where else has it been published? And they sent the PDFs of the other features. And I was like, we couldn't even use layout to give this a fresh take. So that was like, mostly too, because I want to like respect our reader. The magazine costs money to buy at the newsstand. And I would be so
Sure.
annoyed if I was like, I've seen this photo
Seen
400
it.
times. Yeah.
Designers pitching should be like, I mean, like an editor.
So one room you can find a place for sometimes. Is
Yep.
there like any photography tips?
So that I'm probably the most annoying editor, because people always ask these questions and I'm like, case by case basis.
I'll
But
know it when I see it.
well, I will know, the advice I give first is I think all designers should be investing in their own photography, because they then can retain the rights to it. They can use it on their website. And if it is a publication like Rue, they can pitch it to multiple outlets. Some publications say it's us and it's us only forever, and that's that. And that is totally fine. For me, my priority is giving designers a platform to grow their business or show their work. And so having your own photography is great. And it also, allows you to be in control of how it's styled and how the images turn out.
Yeah.
So if it hasn't been photographed, we do produce a few shoots a year just from scouting images. But I mean, a recent one, the designer wasn't, at first it turned out beautifully, but I think wasn't super excited with the way we were styling it. And so, I mean, it's such a personal thing it's your
Totally.
creative work.
And it changes the way the room looks completely.
Totally.
Can.
Yeah. So I think my advice is definitely invest in your own photography. And if you have a dream outlet that you want to be published on, see who is photographing most of those features. And so, for example, you'll see a lot of the same photographers' names in Rue, and you can go look through and say, okay, that is a photographer I'd love to work with, if Rue is your end goal And I mean, even developing, you too, I'm sure know more than anyone, developing a relationship with a photographer makes it from every project cohesive on your website and your portfolio as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And the shorthand that you develop with the photographer,
Yeah.
if like prepping for a shoot, knowing what to expect, it's like everyone does it a little bit different, but it does make it so much faster and easier. And shoots are already expensive and time consuming no matter what, but it definitely changes it. And then clients look at the projects differently when they realize like, oh, wait a minute, like I can't ask them to go lower than what's already being put out there. So it does help put like the market, the tide line is already raised a little bit. So that's helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, we love, most of the submissions I get are already photographed, and I do prefer that because there's a larger image bank for me to choose from, and also craft the angle that will suit our readers or suit like the puzzle I'm trying to put together. And I think I often say like the only spaces that don't do super well for us are nurseries and kids spaces. And I'm not sure why, but just analytics, it can be like the coolest room where I would abandon my life to like be a little kid again and live in that. It's like such a cool space, and it will completely flop on social media, on the website. I have no.
Interesting. I mean, maybe because it's just such a narrow slice of people's lives that if you're no longer in it or never will be in it, you're like,
yes.
Or you already have a nursery and you're like, I can't wait until we're out of this phase. Like,
or my nursery looks like absolute garbage. So
they don't want to be made to feel bad looking at a beautiful nursery or kids room.
Yeah, it's the only room. Otherwise, we're looking for everything, but even nurseries are the one where I pass most often on because I want it to be mutually beneficial for the designer. I don't want them to. I think any press coverage should benefit both the publication, but the person being featured. So
sure.
Okay, so you finish your project. I'm a designer. I finished my project. I get it professionally shot. Do I pitch it to you before I start blasting it all over my Instagram?
I think, yes. I think managing expectations I've heard a lot of stories of people sharing on their Instagram and then a publication saying, sorry, it's already been out there. For me, I'm less stressed about that because I know what a valuable tool Instagram is to designers. And so for me, making them withhold images doesn't really feel right to, especially if we don't have like a firm release date or like, don't share anything. That feels like emotional terrorism.
Oh my God. Like when I see that, like, I mean, I get it, I guess, for your full, like, Joy Cho when she redid her house. Like, I'm like, I can't wait a whole, like, she actually had like a secret house that she built.
Yeah.
Didn't tell anyone until it was
for
launched
years.
in that publication.
Yeah. And I think so it's like the fine line or like the balance of, for me as an editor, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, well, there's not too much point in me putting in all this effort in crafting this unique, beautiful story. And it's a lot of work on our end to get that out there. And so if the space has been everywhere and shared dozens of times, hundreds of times, and it's really oversaturated, I don't know what the value in me putting that effort in. And that sounds I don't mean for that to sound harsh at all. It's just implying like, what is the balance? So if a press coverage, if a big feature is a priority, restraint with what you share on social media, but still being able to share because your social media is such a valuable tool in attracting new clients and growing your business. So what is the balance between offering sneak peeks or showing some of the spaces, but still getting that experience where you get to like reveal your work in this more old-fashioned way.
So in that vein, what's realistic? Like I kind of had this happen where a publication asked, oh, so that project hasn't really been shared, but we'll get back to you. And they didn't. And then another publication kind of asked too. I'm like, I don't know what the like statute of limitations is, how much I bugged the first person. Like ultimately nothing happened, but spoiler alert. But that was probably also on me. But yeah, like I don't know what the I mean it's a big
Like
publication.
etiquette,
Obviously
kind
they're
of.
busy.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm not the priority.
I think that there's a balance, right? And I have kind of in the past equated it to like making new friends or dating, like setting expectations between both parties. And I have heard that I am unique in that I reply to, unless it's a form like email that I know my name has just been populated at the
Bot.
top of it, a
Oh,
bot. I reply to every email because mostly it I think comes from when I was a freelance writer. Like I found it so disrespectful to like put all this effort into a pitch, know someone received it and not even have the courtesy of a no. So
yeah.
I try to give it everyone who's pitching the same courtesy of a reply in some way. So I think, if you want, the one thing I will say is don't pitch to multiple outlets at the same time.
Yeah.
It has happened where I've replied and said, this is amazing. We'd love to move forward with the feature. And then they have to come back and say, I'm really embarrassed. So-and-so picked it up. And it's like, but you just sent it to me a minute ago. Like,
Right. I was pretty quick.
so,
So how long is reasonable to wait between pitches?
I would say, people are busy. If you don't like send a follow-up, maybe a week and a half after your first email, if you haven't heard anything back. And I would say also your own expectations, like what is your number one, how much time are you willing to wait for where you want this to go? And then the other thing that is completely reasonable that I think people maybe feel is too assertive is sending an email that says, I haven't heard back from you. I will be taking it to other publications on this date. And that can feel maybe too like pushy. But for me, if I get that, I'm like, oh, look, I have to
deadline.
Like last chance, let me check it.
Yeah, I got it. Because there have been times where I have been late in a reply and they said, oh, we didn't hear from you, so we took it somewhere else. And I'm like, well, that's on me. That's my fault for not being quicker. And so communicating like this, I've wanted to follow up one more time. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to start pitching it elsewhere. It sounds like aggressive, but it's so appropriate and like helpful, I think. I mean, it's communication is key.
Yeah.
For both.
I agree.
It's still a business interaction. Like it's not personal against Kelli Lamb of Rue that didn't reply to my email. Like,
and you don't have to be a dick about it.
Like,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
This is my final notice.
I know. No, it's so helpful. And because truly when I have replied and I have just been too late because it is hard to manage the amount of submissions, then it's like, I wish I would have known. I would have like hopped to it. The other advice that I have that is, I'm going to sound like a dick, but I have guaranteed in the amount of the time I've been on this podcast, just talking with you, I have 3 emails that have come in and I guarantee that they, instead of Rue, have another publication as, and that's okay. They'll start,
paste.
The email starts strong and it's so common. It's like, and I never reply. I never say like, for future reference, you might, because I don't want to come across rude, but I think it would be really helpful if I started replying like, you should reach out to those editors. Yeah. Or like, people copy and paste is like the name of the game. You're sending it to so many places, but if you do decide to send to a new publication, do like a quick proofread and make sure that you don't end your email with, it's my dream to be published in another publication than the one that you're emailing, because that I will just say no, because
obviously it wasn't your dream.
It wasn't your dream. I can't.
I'm your fallback dream now.
I can't tell you like the number of times I've like typed and then erased. Like, then you should email them. But
we get submissions for the podcast sometimes, and that happens. I'm like, not Luann.
Yeah, we're not that podcast, but thanks for thinking of us after that. But
I mean, you're better if you even reply. I just instantly hit delete because I was on a mass email.
Yeah.
it is an instant delete. And I think I had it from like a publicist who was in-house at a design firm, and that one I wanted to reply and be like, just say like for future, just some advice that might be helpful for your next go around is like, just do a quick read. It happens so much. Of course it does. There's so many great media outlets out there. It's good to diversify where your projects are getting placed, but like, have some common sense.
But
I
also
mean, I
back
wouldn't
to
send it. I wouldn't send a thank you card with the wrong client name on it.
Yeah.
No. And back to your other point that it's also telling you that they just did like a carpet bomb of emails and you're going to be in now a competition, or like, even if you wanted to do that, you might run into them already being placed somewhere. And
well, Sean, you said like it is still a business. It's a business interaction, but it also, what we do is personal. It's what I'm creating is personal. The work that you're creating and pitching is personal. I've made a lot of friends in the industry. I'm more inclined to work with people that I want to help versus people who need something from me or only want, it's a business transaction, but it also is relationships. And like, you wouldn't go meet someone for happy hour if they kept calling you the wrong name. You're like, I'm busy.
Totally.
So I think that is an etiquette that I think is key. And the other thing that is kind of a quick delete is I get a lot of DMs on my personal account outside of work hours, which is fine. But like that, to me, there's like a weird thing. I think it makes sense. Like, send a DM on a weekend that says, I'm having something photographed and I would like to submit it. Could you, no rush, but I'd love to know where to send it. I get like Friday night at like 9 p.m. when I'm having wine, I'll get like DMs with like 10 photos that are like, can't wait to show. Do you think this is a fit for the issue? And that like suddenly takes me out of my personal, like it. Well, I already don't have work-life balance because I'm on social media at 9 on Friday night anyway.
You're trying.
But, I think there is it's like all about a balance. Like, it's friendly and we want to create these relationships, but then also still maintain professionalism. And like, what's the best way for me to get this project in front of you, for you to review it? Like, what's your review process type thing? Or people will send an email.
Don't DM you at 9 o'clock at night.
DM me if it's about housewives, if it's about margaritas,
cats,
cats. If it's a funny TikTok, but like a professional, like, will you publish this, can feel like a little like, like make me,
which
there's
is
like a
funny
whiplash to it.
And there's so many as designers, we're constantly complaining about clients with demands of hours. Like, we know what that's like. Maybe those people like it, but
maybe they like the cortisol spike.
I don't want to deal with your problems right now.
The other one is just be prepared. My final etiquette tip is send an email that is well thought out and prepared. Like, are there photos available? Include them. Is there something unique about the project? Include it. I get tons of like quick fired, like, I just shot a project in Chicago. Do you want to see it for the magazine? I'm like, I don't know.
Show me the pictures.
Could you describe it to me thoughtfully with the written word?
Give me an angle or something that I can work with.
Well, like, I would imagine like I get 1 minute of your attention and let me like maximize that impact on you to help you give me a yes. Like,
I mean, everyone talks about like your elevator pitch. I think even if you already have a relationship with an editor or publication, it's still like an elevator pitch. As much information as efficiently as possible.
What do you like to know about the project?
I like to know first I like to know if there's something interesting about it beyond how beautiful it is. So I'm still a storyteller and I want it. Our audience is a lot of designers and people in the industry, but then it is also a lot of people who just love beautiful spaces. And so what is unique about the space? Is there a custom piece that was designed with the homeowner? is there something sentimental? Was there something catastrophic? Like what has happened that makes it a story that would be interesting telling beyond just, I joke in one of the first print issues, there was this stunning home, but I had a really hard time writing it. And I was like, every caption, I was like, look at these stairs. Now look at this. Like, it was so beautiful, but there wasn't much like meat to the backstory.
Storytelling.
Yeah. So what's special, or if it's about you, what is this your first big project? Is this your own home? Like just something that will a hook beyond the visual of it.
And are you talking like you want like 1 or 2 paragraphs max? Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it short and sweet.
Don't submit a manuscript. In Word.
Those are nice. I do, if it's too long, I'll read it later, but you gotta, like, I'm clicking through a lot. So
yep.
Right.
Short and sweet. A few, like, I think attaching one image so that they see it upon receipt, and then like, here's a gallery if you are interested in seeing more. And the other thing, always check your links to make sure that it's accessible. Like I'll get a lot of links where it's a private Dropbox account. So make sure that there's no roadblocks to the editor seeing you and seeing your story and seeing the work in 1 minute. Yeah.
Very good advice. Really good.
Yeah. Cause if it doesn't work, then you're going to move on, and they lost their shot. Possibly. Okay. That's really helpful.
This is really good for us. And I know that there's a lot coming up in just the next couple of weeks for Rue. So the summer issue of the magazine hits newsstands at the end of June.
Yes. So there's still, the spring issue is still on newsstands now, but our summer issue is off to the printer a week from tomorrow and will be out at the end of June. I'm really excited about it. It's really coming together so beautifully. As like a magazine,
Perfect.
I like my imposter syndrome. I'm like, don't say that. Like, but then I love magazines, so I'm like, it's a good one.
This is a good issue.
You're in charge. You're the magazine mom. Like you should be proud of everything in it.
I think it's great. Yeah. So newsstands end of June for that.
And the book comes out at the end of May. And for us, it's a few weeks out, but by the time listeners are here, the hotties are hearing this, like it's going to be available the end of the month, but you can already pre-order it online.
Yes. Yeah. It's available for pre-order pretty much everywhere books are sold. And I'm so grateful, like everything in the industry, it was delayed just a skosh, but it is here. It's just a little bit. Who can complain? And we're doing a book tour, which I'm really excited about, the month of June. I'll share everything on Rue's Instagram, and we'll have a blog post kind of highlighting everywhere. But we're going to Atlanta, Nashville, Houston, LA, and San Francisco with really fun book signings. And it's me, so there will be wine at all of these places. I'll share loads of details, but I think all of the events will be really great for especially designers and people in the industry versus just like an open house meet and greet. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to leave my home and be with people, celebrate the book.
That's the best part of all of it. What's the Instagram handle for Rue so everyone knows where to look for the announcements about the tour and all of those details? We
are if you're familiar.
I don't know if you know.
Yeah. Rue, RUE magazine on everything, Facebook, Pinterest, everything. It's just Rue magazine. And then my personal account is Kelli, KELLI, Lamb, LAMB _ I've got an underscore.
Aww.
So there's a really lovely, whoever has Kelli Lamb, no underscore, I think is a realtor, and she seems really nice. And I never gonna ask her.
You'll be big enough to pay her to buy the handle.
I wouldn't know. I feel like that's karma, right? Someone was asking if I moved the magazine to the front when I see it, and I'm like, that's bad karma. I'll just leave it where it is.
Oh, no, but I'll do it.
Sean, you did do it. I was like, you keep doing that. When I see it in the third row, I'm like, good job, third row.
Yeah. I'm like, let me just spread a few of these in the front, like just get them out there for people so they can see them a little more. Like
My friend John's home, he has this like beautiful historic home in the Hollywood Hills, was on the cover of like an international magazine. I can't remember which one. And he posted a story literally covering up Rue, like to put his house in front. And I was like, John, that is
we were
rude.
friends.
I saw that.
I trusted you.
Yeah. And I also would like to backtrack and go back on my DM thing. Please DM me. I love that to chat with people on social media. Just don't send like don't ask a professional request on a weekend.
Oh, totally fair.
Yeah. But please reach out. I love my DMs are a flurry, and it's like my favorite way to procrastinate. So
yeah, I feel like there's definitely a line, and you want it where your submission, like you want it in your submission bucket. Like if you have something floating off, like you'll forget. I forget about those all the time.
Yeah.
That's
Things
awesome.
get lost pretty quick in Instagram. Maybe they can address that with the metaverse. Like,
yes, please.
Yeah. I'm so glad you joined us today, Kelli. Thank you so much.
thank you both. It was so fun.
And we'll put a link to everything in the show notes, listeners, so you can I'll put the submission link in there as well as all the socials and the pre-order. And it'll be out within a couple days when we're live here. So
exciting.
yay.
So you'll just
Yay.
see me at every bookstore in the LA area, like peeking in to see if it's there.
Well, I'm going to try to see you in San Francisco. So I'll be following for those dates.
Yay. I'll send all the details. That one will be so fun and fun to go back to, like where I started.
The Rue
Yeah.
roots.
The roots.
See, it already writes itself.
Oh, that's a
Hashtag
good note
roots.
for me to stop.
Yeah. All right. Well, until
Thank
next
you.
time.
Stay hot, designers. Thanks for joining this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out the show notes there for links to things we talked about today.
We are keeping the conversation going on Instagram, so don't forget to like, comment, and follow at Hot Young Designers Club.
You can find Rebecca on Instagram at Studio Plum.
And you can find Sean at Renstead Interiors. That's WRENSTED. I screamed at the finale.
I haven't watched it.
Not gonna
Don't
say,
tell me.
but it's like the worst cliffhanger ever.
I won't say anything other than I was standing on my sofa. Standing
Okay, I'm gonna have to
would have
watch
if
it.
it wasn't
on
midnight.
my sofa. And then my phone was like ring ring, and the designer was like, "Hey, I've got a great project." And I was like, "No,
Not now. Not today.